Video request. This is another one from Love and Light Land, somebody who gives me lots of requests. Video request. The belief in reincarnation has become very common recently. The topic has been recently mentioned on a mommy channel video or two. This is all becoming mainstream. However, like you, I have always had a basis for belief in reincarnation. Do you think it is becoming a fad, or do you think popularity is linked to more of a Buddhist belief system? Thanks. It's definitely not a fad. A fad is something that comes and goes. Belief in reincarnation is going to come and stay once it comes, because it's the truth. And we're in the age of information where we have access to the truth. Or to information which leads us to the truth. It's the nature of information. And it is linked to Buddhists and Hindus, because they're the ones who believe in reincarnation, and they're the ones who've, they moved to America and they like to spread their religion and their beliefs around America. But I think another reason that people are starting to believe in reincarnation is because it just makes sense. It just makes more sense. People in the East weren't the only people who believed in reincarnation. Always. We stopped believing in reincarnation in Europe, but we believed it beforehand. Like barbarians in Europe, and even the Americans and stuff, most of those people believe in some form of reincarnation. And a lot of natives actually did believe in the concept of reincarnation, that you would reincarnate into a human body again. We don't have a whole lot of knowledge about the philosophy of natives, of barbarians from Europe and natives from America and stuff, of what they actually believed back then, because there just wasn't a whole lot of documentation. I know a lot of Native Americans these days try to act like they know everything there is to know about their ancestors, and it's just not true. A white person almost has as much of a chance of understanding the mind of a native as a modern day native does. In the past we always have, there always were some people who believed and other people who didn't. Atheism is a belief system that's always existed. And a certain, I think 10% of are atheists in the world. And it's probably been something close to that, throughout history. But the belief in reincarnation, let's see, let's read the question and see if I'm missing anything here. Oh yeah, it's becoming mainstream, and she sees it's becoming mainstream. Yeah, so why is it becoming mainstream is basically the question. It's kind of when you mix lots of different cultures of people together, the good part of the culture is what will stick, and the crappy part of the culture is what dies away. For example, a bunch of Chinese people move to America. They've got good food, good healthy food, so that sticks. We got Chinese restaurants all over the place. Some of their negative aspects would be to, pray to over the ghost of their father the rest of their life, or be afraid of somebody walking around with their shirt off, or get offended if somebody takes their socks off in front of you or something like that. Those are superstitious beliefs that are just negative, and that stuff doesn't stick. You wouldn't attribute that to a Chinese guy out here in America, because they don't bring that crap along with them when they move here. They bring the good stuff. So the crap burns away and the good stuff sticks. And that's actually something that's actually physically true, if in terms of crossbreeding things. Negative recessive traits usually die away when you crossbreed things, but they come back and bite you in the ass if you don't crossbreed. And that's why inbreeding has negative effects, because it's these negative traits that come up again. So So with that concept in mind, America is the melting pot of the world, and so we have all these different cultures, and reincarnation is a positive trait, and so it's just one of those religious traits that we have inherited from East Asians, Buddhists and Hindus, and as well as common sense. We've always believed in reincarnation, and in Greece they believed in reincarnation. Oedipus Rex, the ancient Greek play from the 400s BC. They said, and when he died, he was reborn as a wolf. So and I think that they believe that. If you're in Greeks, your bad people were reborn as wolves, and good people were like reborn as rich people, stuff like that. So, here's where I could just go on forever about reincarnation. Reincarnation is becoming popular because it's superior belief. Why is it superior belief? Well, go on forever about that. So reincarnation is a superior belief because it allows you to relax, and to just live your life at your own pace, because there's no due date for anything. Because if you don't do something in this life, you'll just do it in the next if you have that desire to. And whatever happens this life is kind of what you wanted to do in the first place, Like, I think when we die and we have our life review and you look, what you regret is being a dick to people. But you're not really going to regret, like, the things you did, Like, now in this life, you might regret doing something like smoking weed 10 years in a row and not accomplishing anything besides smoking weed. Well, when you die and you look at your life, you just kind of review the smoking weed and go, okay, well, right on, those were the things I did, But there was no regret about it, because while you were doing it, you were enjoying yourself. And when you die and you're in a timeless state, you realize that concept of well, I must have been enjoying it because I was doing it. So there you go. I'm not going to have a problem with that. That's one superior thing about reincarnation. Allows you to relax, and then you can... It also expands your mind about the world, your concept. You can have a wider range of belief systems. And also the universe, the world can be bigger to you. You can see yourself coming back as a Chinaman, or maybe the last life I lived, I was an Indian, and so you can look at different cultures as being more as your own, and you can look at us all as being like one happy family. The bigger you think, the more, the more stepped back you are. You can look at stuff in a more objective and positive way, and not, not the small, like, immature, vengeful, childish way of looking at things, where I'm better than you. Oh, my teacher is best teacher. There's scientific proof for it, from people remembering their past lives, and an alternative is not even possible. Because if you're going to start thinking about living one life on the earth and then dying and going off to heaven, what now for the rest of eternity? Are you going to be in heaven? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you, if you live forever, why would you have your introductory life that's done in a split second and then go off to live where you're supposed to live for all of eternity? No. The world is in a lot more flux than that, dude. All you have to do is look outside and watch it start to rain to realize that, dude. I mean, your soul is always moving around and changing locations and places and situations and levels, and, you're always learning, and you're always doing things that you end up regretting, It's part of the learning process. So, holy shit, I lost my train of thought. Uh-oh. So it's impossible to not believe in reincarnation. That's like a puny little world. Tiny little world that could never be, Explain the logic behind that. Like, why do you think, oh, it's written in the Bible? Oh, right, the Christian book that was written by God knows who and compiled by a bunch of Romans who weren't even Christian. Like, there's other books out there, other religions out there, other races out there besides you puny little Christian. And, it doesn't have to be anti-Christianity to believe in reincarnation. There are plenty of references in the Bible to it. When Jesus was preaching, and this is after John, they asked him if he was Elijah. No, they asked him if he was somebody, and he's like a prophet who'd lived 500 years ago. So they believed in reincarnation, if they're going to ask him that question. And he said, no, but I am somebody else. And he named like Elijah or somebody. So yeah. Well, even aliens, Jesus said, in my God's mansion, or in my God's house, there are many mansions. So many worlds, lots of stars out there with life on it. It's a big world. But yeah, anyways, it doesn't have to be anti-reincarnation to be Christian. Ever since the beginning of Christianity, that has been, ever since the beginning of Catholicism, that has been ingrained in Catholicism, not believing in reincarnation. The original Christians probably did believe in reincarnation. The ones who weren't sanctioned by Rome, all up until 325. I wouldn't, be surprised if a lot of them believed in reincarnation. Although, it just wasn't part of their skill set to talk about. It wasn't one of the subjects they talked about in those days, reincarnation. But it should be now. And, it's perfectly okay to be a Christian and believe in reincarnation, And you can believe in hell, just don't believe that hell is eternal for everybody. Hell itself is eternal, but you don't go there and stay there for eternal amount of time. That's another crazy thought. So yeah, it's just people waking up to logic. If you're living in a world that has the level of science and technology that we have, where everything is based off of whether or not it makes sense, and whether or not it follows the rules of nature. If you're not thinking like that, then you're not gonna be able to be an engineer. You're not gonna, and that's where most of the jobs are these days. You're not going to be able to contribute to creating a new technology because you're just you can't make crap up out of thin air and then ask some inanimate object to follow your rules. You got to follow God's rules of the universe. And so I think as a result of that, a lot of people are thinking scientifically now. They're thinking logically. They're not thinking something just because that's what they always thought. And they can't imagine themselves getting out of that thought. Oh no. So now they're taking a second look and they're like, well, actually it's not logical to think somebody's going to burn in hell for all of eternity. That's a torture that could not exist. It's impossible for that to exist. It's, people aren't born into existence to be tortured for all of eternity, And especially, a lot of the beliefs that are attributed to these simple-minded Christians, if you did not take the Lord and Savior Jesus as your personal Savior, then you're going to burn in hell for all of eternity, this kind of stuff. It's what people believed, but they're starting to believe it less, and they're having to believe in stuff that actually makes sense. Because people are asking questions. They're saying why and what and how and what's the logic behind that. And so, belief systems that don't have any logic behind them are just going to fade away, and the ones that do have a logic and a backbone to them, and something that you can formulate a deep philosophical understanding of the way that the universe works. You're going to need beliefs that make sense, and that's reincarnation. It's not you live in the world one day and then you go in some imaginary place that you never even describe what it's like for all of eternity in just that place, and that's just how it is because I know that's how it is, and don't even talk to me about anything else. People are starting to realize that those people who don't want to give details or talk about anything, and they just want to say that they're right and you're wrong, those kinds of people are kind of losing their clout pretty quick. So yeah, that's why I think reincarnation is more powerful now. It's it's more logical, and people are starting to grow brains and become more logical themselves, and that's one of the things of logic. So that's why we believe in reincarnation. But definitely thanks to the Buddhists and the Hindus for coming over here and sharing that idea with other people who've never really thought about it. So that's my take on that. Peace out.